Good morning, everybody. It is 8:52 a.m., 8:19. Welcome to my channel. Apologize for the delayed start. I had some issues with my data in the morning, and then, ironically, I was working on something new to show everybody about the bonds and about how short hedge funds and institutional traders were in the Nasdaq, and we hit a record high for in a long time in the 30-year bond. And yields rose the highest since I think 2007, I believe. Almost all preparing this, and then all of a sudden, the U.S. Treasury Department announces that they're adding to the long part of the bond yields, the long end, and poof, the market has a relief. The market has a relief. Okay. Welcome, cartoon. Not sure if you're new. So this is pretty nuts. As I was literally preparing for the stream, I see that announcement from the U.S. Treasury Department. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. This is the exact reason why yesterday we were falling, because the rates were soaring higher, and obviously the Strait of Hormuz, right? Market sees further inflation. And now the U.S. Treasury just doubled the bond. So now I was researching this, and I'm not going to try to say that I'm an expert. But when I was researching, is this typically should shove yields up, but it's showing the government is not nervous. That's what I'm seeing. Doesn't really matter, right? Because what I said in the headline was 30-year bond is being bought right now. It is up 1.15%, which is going to send the yields lower, right? 10-year yield is down 1.21%. The markets now are catching a bid. What I'm just going to show you in a little later was the commitment traders also. And I'm going to give credit to Dylan from Carmine Rosado's Investor Trade. He was talking about how the commitment of traders gives a report, okay? And large speculators was the most short the Nasdaq's ever been. And he was showing the 30-year bond was also the most short it's been in a while. Unbelievable. Pretty remarkable, okay? So this market just never ceases to amaze, right? Because I'm telling you right now, those rates were spooking markets, okay? We're spooking markets. All right, so let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. All right, my name is Steven Gonzalez. Market profile, volume profile, define structure of the markets, almost supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge where I come up with my game plans. Okay, now once the market opens up, I use market internals to see where money flows are going off the open, along with some ICT anchor view ups, my weekly expected move for Thinkorswim that I give away for free on my Discord, and my gamma flip points for weekly and monthly flip points, which are very key levels that I give away for free every day as well. All right, now hopefully you join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert, give you the market story, technical analysis, and always give you the long and short trade scenarios and NASDAQ and ES futures later on in the stream. If you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Okay? All right, let me be your indicator. Okay, let's look at futures watch list. I'm glad I'm starting late, because this would have been totally opposite of whatever I said if I went earlier. Okay, so look at gold. Gold up 1.70%. Silver's up 1.47%. Ethereum up 1.25. 30-year bonds are being bought, like I talked about. 30-year yield lower. Russell up 0.92. Dow's up 0.58. Nasdaq's up over 0.5%. ES up 0.5%. Bitcoin up 0.32. Crude was not down. Crude is down slightly. Okay. The dollar is down over 0.5%. The 10-year yield is down 1.23%. And the VIX is down 2.46%. Now, yesterday was very weird. Okay, very weird to have a big gap down like that and to have little to no volatility in the ES. Very weird. Okay, let's look at the Mag 7 Plus. Okay, Micron up over 2.5%. It was so funny. I was gonna go it long Micron yesterday. I didn't. I didn't do it. Right. I didn't do it because I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do that. It came to a level where I wanted to get long, but I was like, you know what? Let's see. And then you know what I mean. No one would have knew the U.S. Treasury would do this. Okay. Eli Lilly. So the Micron's up over 2.68%. Eli Lilly up over 1%. Coinbase up over 1%. AMD up 0.95. Amazon up 0.85. Who's lagging today? Okay. So you got Google down 0.44. Microsoft down over half. And Broadcom is taking it on the chin somehow, down 2.37%. Okay. Let me see. Is there a reason for that? There has to be a reason, obviously. Um, Obviously, there was some negative news. I don't remember what it was about Broadcom. I can't remember right now. Okay. Top sector stocks. NEM mining stock, woof, up 4.68%. Home Depot up 1.34. Goldman Sachs up 0.92. Johnson & Johnson up 0.88. Who's lagging today? Chevron down 0.41. Oracle down 0.6. So software seems to be getting sold today. Salesforce down 0.63. Sectors. Everything's green here. Healthcare is crushing it, up 1.38. Semis up 1.37. Basic materials, which is metals, okay, that's why gold and all that stuff is up 1%. Industrials up 0.62. Technology up 0.60. So technology overall is not killing it, but semis are. Okay. Real estate, I mean, everything is up, okay? Everything. Now, we'll go into the hourly charts. We just hit the month-to-date anchored VWAP 77, let's call it 50. We just took out the month-to-date anchor VWAP in the NASDAQ 297. We're at the most traded price of this year, 297 and a half, right now in the NASDAQ. Right now. Okay? That is not a coincidence. I talk about this all the time. Okay? Let's go to the economic calendar. Alrighty. So today, 30-year mortgage was flat from the previous. We have EIA crude inventory at 10:30 and FOMC minutes at 2 p.m. FOMC minutes at 2 p.m. Okay, so the news today is U.S. Treasury current maximum size of $2 billion per operation will be at least $4 billion per operation. Like I said, normally U.S. Department announces increased sizes of nominal long end. All right, so like I said, when I looked into it, generally yields should go up in this case, but like what I was seeing is that this means that the U.S. Treasury is not scared and it's going to absorb this, and it's like it should calm the market. So that, I mean, like I said, it doesn't really matter. The markets are going up. Okay. All right. So that's that news. That's really all that matters this morning. Trump today. Let's see. Is he doing anything? 2:30, President delivers remarks with with technology leaders. That could be bullish at 2:30. Hope to be done by then. Okay. Now the news really. I mean, I might even go over all this. This almost doesn't even matter now. Okay, so I'm not even. I'm going to brush over the news because I have limited time. Okay. Let's go over to what I'm going to talk about today. It's still okay. So this is the commitment of traders. Now, the green line, this is the NASDAQ futures. The green line is large speculators, okay? Asset managers, non-commercial large speculators, okay? So this is the most short the commitment of traders have been. Now, that's 5 years. Look, it's never been that short. And so if you ever watch, I always forget his first name, but Shapiro was a market wizard. He uses the commitment of traders to trade all the time. Anytime something is so overly done, he takes the opposite trade. So in the NASDAQ, this is the most short hedge funds, large speculators have been. And could I say, credit to Dylan, believe his name is O'Neill, but I could be wrong. And from Carmine Rosado's group, he was pointing this out, and then I'm confirming it and going, "Whoa, man, this. You have not been this short." So, okay. So, like I said, when I was researching with the U.S. Treasury, this generally should send yields higher, but it's looking at the markets like the government is not nervous about it. So that, like I said, and they're going to take on more debt. So we have to see. But this is what I wanted to introduce here. This is pretty crazy. All right. This is pretty crazy short. All right. And they were short the 30-year bond as well, pretty heavy. So if we go to ZB, right here, they were pretty short 30-year bonds. Okay. So pretty interesting. All right. And then you get this news while I'm doing all this work pre-market. Pretty crazy. Okay. That's all I'm going to deal with there. All right. We have limited time. So I was so interested in that. So we got to remember, big money was basically short Nasdaq futures. Now, what happens after this? I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Like I said, so let's move on. Let's go to yesterday was disgusting. Price action. It was really horrible. Okay. Here's a market internals recap. We don't have to get in depth too much of it, but this was just garbage. I was short here multiple times. It never would have hit my stop. I got hit break even multiple times. Okay. Yes, my target would have been hit here, but it was so weird. Okay. It was very weird. And NASDAQ had the move lower. I really should have shorted NASDAQ, but still, this was so compressed for such a large gap. And the market really was never that weak. There was this showing the end of the day, but the beginning of the day, these were all green. And tech was the only one that was weak. The market can't go down if that's the case. Okay. So we're going to move on from that. We're going to get right into, obviously, how much does this mean now? The daily charts now. So I'm letting the market cool its thing before I give scenarios. Okay. So yesterday, wow, look at that, right? Broke this trend, right? We broke last week's lows. My weekly expected move indicator, 765, was the expected move to the downside. This is the range, right? 765 to 787s. So we broke the 9 EMA daily with a gap and gap down. Never even came close to filling a gap. Very compressed session for, you would think volatility would have expanded, and it really didn't. Okay, where are we now? 770. 770 22s. We're right above, gapping up, right above yesterday's highs. Okay, actually inside the unfilled gap of yesterday. So, okay, let's look at futures. Okay, so in futures, we're right at the 9 EMA daily, hitting the backside of it. We're also hitting last week's lows. Okay, we're right above them of last week's lows. So do we just get that bought back up now and say, oh, there we go? I don't know. I don't know. Okay. So this is the balance. We had to look above and fail. Look, we came back down to the 7725s, the balance area lows. Now, this is very interesting. We swept this low. This could really jolt today. I don't know. Okay. Really could jolt today. All right, let's go to Qs. So look at the Qs. Right. We came down and hit what? Last week's lows. The weekly expected move to the downside was 713.79. We didn't make it there, but we literally didn't hit last week's lows, but we came close. That was enough. 50-day moving averages below. We ran into the 9 EMA daily on the backside. Now, where are we now? 720.60s. 720.60s. Now, we are not gapping up in the NASDAQ. And like I said, I'll show you in a second, that big monster level of 297.5. It's a monster. Okay. So let's look at futures. All right, so this was taken out. So we're going to get rid of this one. This daily demand is still here. Look what we did. We swept yesterday's session's lows, 50-day moving average, last week's lows. Last week's lows. We swept that. Now we're back. This could really. Now we have to get over to 297.5. This is basically the most traded price of this year. If I zoom out, you can see it. Look at across from 279.5. It is the most traded price of this year. That's why it's that, right? Just causes a lot of congestion. If you break over that today, whew, we could really go flying. Okay, now you do have a daily supply here. You do. Okay, that is a no joker right there. Okay, so it's going to be interesting, folks. Now on breath from yesterday, breath got down to 60% of stocks above the 50-day moving average yesterday. So 2 negative days of overall breath. Okay, remember getting to the 70s, it's kind of frothy. I was talking about it, right? You only had 2 days up there, and then the market's kind of like, all right, overall breath got a little weaker. All right, now let's get into the hourlies now so I can just show you some of these levels, and then we'll quickly get over because the market's got to digest this huge move. Caught a lot of people off sides, I'm sure. Okay, so let's look at the hourly charts now. Okay, let me get my marker out. Okay, marker out. Let's do it. ES. Now, there was tons of poor structure below this in the ES. Multiple bullish or value gaps. That's just poor structure. It's inefficiency. Okay. Support in there is bullish. We weren't driving down too much yesterday. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. And it was looking kind of bullish to begin with. And then you get this friggin' US Treasury Department and it just rips. Right. Rips. So we got to remove these supplies. There was other 2 supplies that it got rid of. Okay. Bunch of swing highs that it just ripped. Okay. This is the unfilled gap from yesterday, so we're gapping up into an unfilled gap. Now you can see right here, we hit the week to day and month to date anchored VWAP right there at the 77.50s. Okay. So not a shocker that we're just chilling there. There's last week's lows. We're back inside last week's range. Monster right there. All right, so I'm going to mark that off as a demand zone right here. Now, I don't know what I'm going to label that eventually, but that's going to that might even be a bigger demand than, it's a bunch of hours and, we'll see. Okay, but wow. Okay, now you have a monster bullish for value gap here as well. Okay, so let me add that as well. Right there. We're going to change that to my setting for the bull. Okay, boom. Any support in this area is going to be bullish. Okay, any support in this area. Now you just took out that equal high right here, right? And notice how it got support. Now you do have some supply up in here. Actually, we got rid of this bearish value gap. Boop. Okay. So very interesting what's going to happen today. There's a lot of shorts that just got destroyed. Okay, lots. So we're going to look at the 77.50. That's the level to look at there. Now, if we look at the NASDAQ futures, okay, this is the level I was talking about. Yeah, and ad nauseum constantly. 297.5. 297.5 is right here. Look what we just did. Came up there from this news. Zoop, and just as I suspected, got resistance there. Okay, not a shock. Doesn't shock me at all. Okay, so you took out these swings. Now you're going to have a nice demand area here. Okay. Markets never cease to amaze. It's just really, you just never know. You just never know with these markets. It's so hard to be a swing trader right now. I mean, so hard. If I was like short yesterday, because like you could have been short in all that poor structure below in the ES, and you're like, and say you're in options, you can't do anything. You're just watching this market and going, oh my God, I'm a short. You're thinking in the overnight, you're looking great. Okay, so it's 297.5s. There's the month to day anchor view up, 297s. We are over it. So buyers are back in control for the month. Sellers are still in control for the week. The week to day anchor view up. Okay. So what do we do here? Whew. What do we do? Where's money flows gonna? I'm very curious what the market's gonna do today. I don't know, right? I never know. I never try to tell you guys, hey, I know. I can have a good probability of a scenario, but never know. I mean, that's ridiculous. Who really knows? Nobody. Nobody really knows. Okay. All right. Here's the market profile and volume profile. My preferred way to look at the markets now. Okay. So ES is gapping up. Nasdaq is not. Okay. Now I do notice right down here, the 77.17s in the 24 hours is the most traded price of the week. Okay. So the markets did bring value lower in the 24 hours. In the 24 hours. Real-time trading hours is more up here to like the 78, let's just call it 7800s. Okay. And then you have the 7775 is the most traded price of the month. Now we're inside of the gap from yesterday, but we're gapping up again. So it's just a mess. Okay. It's a mess. Okay. So now how are we going to look at this, right? Week to date, like I just told you, the week to date and month to date anchor view is equal. This is called wow. Okay. That's telling you sellers and buyers are just equal for the month. No one has the upper hand in the week or the month. It's literally equal. Okay. So how we're going to look at this today. All right. Let's look at this today. And now let's get into the scenarios. This is your long and short trade scenarios in the ES. Okay. So let's break out the session. It's only 30-minute bars. It's nothing scary. Okay. It's all it is. Now, first thing we're going to do is mark off gap fill. Gap fill. That's 77.35. 50% retracement of the overnight is 77.28. Okay. This to me just looks bullish. I mean, you can't really say anything about it. Okay. So let's get into scenarios. Okay. Okay. What am I going to see? We're stuck right here. Not a shock. We're stuck right here at the 77.50s, which is the month to date anchor VWAP, the week to date anchor VWAP. Now we have last week's lows, 77.38s. Lines up with this bullish rally gap. Lines up with gap fill. Whew. Okay, so all I care about is a pullback to 77.35's gap fill. Last week's lows. To me, that is pretty much teeing up if this market can pull back there, okay, and hold this poor structure. It's very bullish. And then you look to go all the way. I think you take out 77.58 overnight highs and you could target 77.75s. Now, nothing's perfect, okay? Nothing is perfect. We could drop back into 77.28s, the 50% retracement of the overnights. Also, and anywhere in that area. And now I'm saying this would have to be quicker, right? This would be quick. Pull back possibly to 77.20s. The 20s area, okay? You get a higher low, you take that puppy up. You got to think about it. These were all shorts from yesterday. They are underwater. Okay? So that's what I'm looking for longs. Now shorts. Now, I think a difficult short would be like, oh, I'm shorting this. Now, this could very well work. You have very thin volume here. I'm not really a fan of that. Okay? And we did go into supply and get some sellers. I don't have a lot of shorts that I like, honestly, right here. Now, if we go and rip up fast, let's say we're very fast up to 7775s and you get a failure here, retest 775, possibly you can get a short. But I'm telling you right now, I am not a fan yet. Okay? I'm not really a fan of shorts today. That's about it, and I'm not even a fan of that too much. Okay? Now, let's go over to the NASDAQ and we'll get out of here. Okay, here's your NASDAQ. Remember, your NASDAQ is not gapping up. It's different market. Okay, so let's get right into the NASDAQ's long and short trade scenarios here. Okay, we can make this a little smaller. Okay. All you need to know, okay, is the 297.5s. That was resistance yesterday. That was resistance the overnight. So that is a major hurdle for the NASDAQ to get over. Let's break out the session. 30-minute bars. That's all it is. Okay. To me, the ES looks more bullish in structure. Okay. So we're in supply right now. We're right at the month-to-day anchor VWAP at 297. All right. So this to me has to get over this. Has to get over it in order to have a nice run. Okay. Now don't get me wrong. You can get a pullback long. Okay. Just have to see how this plays out. Okay. Again, all these shorts are underwater. We just have to see how momentum carries it. Let's get into scenarios now. All right. Start with the bullish side. Number one, let's say if we gap, we're not gapping. Sorry. If we break yesterday's highs to 22977, boom, and you take out the most traded price of this year, right? Let's say you do this, retest the 297.5s, then you go long, okay? Might take some off at the 29860. There's a supply zone. There's also the week to day anchor VWAP right there. If you can go through that, you have single prints to the left here, right here, that you could rocket ship up. Now, 30,000 is psychological level. That could stop there as well. You could end up at filling the gap at 366. Okay. Now, another one would be if you pull back very quickly. I would love to get a very quick pullback right here around to the 29595s. Okay. 29595s and this demand 29573s. If you launch off there, retest yesterday's most traded price at 29595s. Then you target 297.5s and maybe you hold the runner and see if you can go higher. Okay. Now that 297.5s is a beast. You could clearly see it's a beast. All right. Shorts. Well, and I think in the NASDAQ, you do have a shot at a possible short here. Let's say we push up, but we can't find acceptance above the 297.5s, and we fall back under, and you see, retest 297.5s, that's your short, and you target this 295. Hold the runner, see if you could take out overnight lows 29430s, and then it's a bloodbath. I don't know if that happens. Honestly, it's probably the only short that I would even think about. All right, so that, my friends, is it. So I'm going to give you a real quick recap of the ES. ES, remember, we're gapping up. 7735s is gap fill. I just think that could be like taking candy from a baby. We'll have to see. I don't know. Okay. Remember, 7750s is the month to date and week to date anchor VWAP. All right. NASDAQ 297.5s. Go over that. It's probably going to be very bullish. You hold below it. I'm not saying bearish, but you could have a short on your hands. All right, everybody. That's it for me. Smash the like button if you enjoyed that. That would mean a lot to me. Okay. Now, join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert. Give you the market news, technical analysis, and always give you the long and short trade scenarios in the ES and NASDAQ futures. All right. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. It's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on a link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Everybody, hope everybody has a great day. All right. Now, I have a process. I have a plan. Hope you do too. If I don't see you at 9:45 a.m. when I'm live in my Discord, I'll see everybody